Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome back to our deck tech series. If you like deck techs of all kinds and want to see more, here's a link to our playlist, Go Nuts, we have a ton of them. In this video we'll be teching a really weird modern deck. I'm actually going to have trouble telling you exactly what it does since it doesn't really do anything at all, kinda sorta. Let's just get right into it, you'll understand in a minute, maybe. Lantern Control is a relatively new modern deck popping up within the last few months. In the weirdest, most roundabout way possible, this is a prison-style deck. What that means is that your deck is designed to stop other decks from doing all the stuff they want to do. They're annoying to play against and almost always end up going to time or at least close to it. Without further ado, oh boy, I'm sorry in advance. The land base, much like the rest of the deck, is super weird. We have playsets of both Glimmervoid and Llanowar Wastes, accompanied by 2 each of the fast lands Blackcleave Cliffs and Copperline Gorge. Then we have 2 Ghost Quarter, 2 Academy Ruins, and 1 Tendo Ice Bridge. Yes, I promise this is a deck, and no, it isn't Affinity. Instead of going through card types like we normally do, I'll just tell you as best I can what the deck does step by step. The deck is named after Lantern of Insight, an uncommon from 5th Dawn, and a playset in the strategy. With each player's top card revealed, it's pretty easy to see what's coming next. Don't like what you see? Use your playsets of Ghoulcaller's Bell and Codex Shredder to mill it away. Yup, no joke, those are real cards in this deck. With both Lantern and a couple of these mill artifacts in play, you can usually lock your opponent out of any good draws. Worst case scenario, you sacrifice the Lantern and make them shuffle, but most of the time the milling will do the work for you. Now that you have your Lantern lock on their top decks, how do you deal with, anything they already have? A full set of Ensnaring Bridge lock up the ground. The average converted mana cost of your deck is 1.26, so you shouldn't worry about not being able to play anything you have. Your hand will be empty by turn 3 or 4 no matter what you're holding. The bridge keeps you safe against any and all creatures that mean to hit you in the face. Welcome to prison-style decks. What if they have planeswalkers or other pesky non-creature permanents? 3 Pithing Needle in the main board deal with all that crap, from Liliana of the Veil forcing you to discard to Oblivion Stone being one of the only ways Tron has to deal with you. Pithing Needle, in a meta where everyone knows what everyone else is playing, is particularly powerful. Plus it's a 1-mana artifact. We love those. There's clearly a theme here, get with it. Clearly we depend on our peculiar band of artifacts to survive, gotta protect them. 3 Spellskite are necessary for this deck's success. Redirecting is always the best decision, and if your Spellskite dies, hopefully you have the aforementioned Academy Ruins to bring it back. If you don't want to bring back the Skite, bring anything else back. Academy Ruins is an all-star, and along with Spellskite, it'll be really difficult to keep your artifacts off the board for long. Not done with our artifacts yet. 3 Mox Opal just makes sense. We're running a ton of artifacts already, and we could use the additional mana sources. Mana sources? Right, okay. We could use the additional mana since we're only running 17 lands. Our curve is low, but Opal helps to ensure we can play everything we have, especially our spells that I'll talk about in a second. They are colored after all. I know, it sucks. The last artifact in the deck is one of Pyrite Spellbomb. Yep, that's called a win condition. With the Academy Ruins in play, you can deal a whopping 2 damage per turn, which is perfectly fine since your opponent, at least by then, probably isn't doing much anyways. I've heard ending the game is a good idea. The Spellbomb helps to do that. While it isn't the fastest victory, if you're playing this deck, nothing happens quickly. The rest of the deck is made up of 17 spells. We'll start with the instants, 2 Abrupt Decay and 2 Surgical Extraction. Abrupt Decay kills Liliana, kills Oblivion Stone, kills most any creatures you don't want to see, Eidolon of the Grey Revel being one of the juiciest targets for this, and helps to deal with annoying post-sideboard cards like Kataki War's Wage. Surgical Extraction is simply a bomb. With all the milling that you'll be doing, it won't take long to see what your opponent's up to. If even just 1 copy of something you don't like hits the yard, fair game for the extraction. You get to see their hand and their deck, totally busted ability, one of the best cards as a 2-of, seriously, it's insane. Next up, we have 3 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Duress, and 3 Gitaxian Probe. We need information since our deck runs a bit slow, gotta know what's going on in their hand. All 3 spells are valuable. Probe lets us cantrip on turn 1 without dropping mana first. Both Duress and Inquisition help to set up Surgical Extraction or simply get rid of a card we can't deal with in the early game. If the game goes long, we're fine, but these discard spells are at their most powerful early when we're vulnerable, so remember that. All that's left is a playset of Ancient Stirrings and 1 Infernal Tutor. Stirrings is exactly what we want here. It can get any of our artifacts, or it can grab some of our lands if we need them. Again, the start is slow. Stirrings can help us find what we need sooner. Easy addition to the deck. Infernal Tutor, on the other hand, a little crazy, but I love it. Our hand is going to be empty more often than not. Infernal Tutor then becomes the best tutor we could possibly ask for. 2 mana with Hellbent and we get whatever card we want, don't even have to reveal it. It isn't even like Hellbent will be difficult to trigger, seriously. Our entire deck is stupidly easy to play, at least mana-wise. This will never be a problem, Tutor's boss. So that's the entire deck. Let's go over what we've got going on. The goal is to lock your opponent out of doing anything you don't like, so basically anything. You use your mill artifacts, the Shredder and Bell, to slowly whittle your opponent's deck to nothing. If you have a Lantern in play, you use those mill abilities to control the top of their deck, avoiding any good draws coming up. Ensnaring Bridge keeps you alive against creatures, Spellskite keeps your artifacts alive, and your spell package disrupts whatever your opponent has going on, hopefully long enough for you to assemble your massive artifacts or for you to Pyrite Spellbomb them to death or just mill them, whichever comes first. This is a complicated build and it's going to take a while to get the hang of it, but when you do, man, it can be really fun, and by fun, I mean anti-fun. Everyone in the world will hate you. Let's talk sideboard. You're weak against aggressive decks, you just are. They're too fast for you to get your lot going, and most of their draws are threats against your life, so milling their top decks might not even help you. Sun Droplet extends your life. I suggest playing a full set. Your matchup against Burn is abysmal. Not great against Zoo either unless you get your bridge out fast. In addition to the Droplet, you'll want to bring in Welding Jars, multiple. They will bring in Smash to Smithereens, Rakdos Charm, Nature's Claim, lots of stuff. Welding Jar is a way to fight their sideboard plan. I'd bring in at least 3. No joke, it's that important. Grafdigger's Cage is the bee's knees against what you'd think it would be good against. Living End strategies, anything with Snapcaster Mage, that guy's a butt. Storm, there are plenty of targets for the cage, worth at least 1 or 2 spots in the sideboard. The last guaranteed sideboard spot should go to Pyroclasm, at least 3 of them. Token decks suck. Hate Bear sucks. Merfolk sucks. Here's to hoping you can Clasm before the lords go nuts. Zoo variants, Affinity. Play Pyroclasm against most creature-based strategies. You'll know when to bring it in, trust me, those decks are not subtle. I think that pretty much covers it. Lantern Control is a wonky strategy made with wonky cards that do wonky things. It may not look like much, but test it out. It's surprisingly consistent and preys upon slower decks like none other. Honestly, it's brutal. Like the most brutal thing I've ever seen. Just try it, it's sweet. Let me know in the comments what you think about the deck. Any comments, suggestions, questions, anything at all, leave them below. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.